name is Stephen Brooks Thomas. I was named after Grandpa. I'm the oldest in our family that was. But to know what he meant to our family, all you have to know is that several of his great-grandchildren also bear that name. He meant a lot. Now, parents discipline. Parents instill rules. Parents prepare children for the future. Grandparents spoil. Grandparents love. Grandparents maybe do a little bit of undoing of what the parents are doing. I'm going through this now. I wanted to speak today and maybe bring back some people's memories that they may have with Grandpa and share some of my own. I wanted this to be a celebration of his time on earth and our time with him, and remind you that it's okay to cry. It's okay to smile and maybe even laugh a little bit today when we think back about some of those times with him. Now, as has been mentioned, Grandpa Brooks was quite the storyteller. If you hadn't heard the same story at least 3 times, then you hadn't spent enough time around Grandpa Brooks. He would tell stories of his childhood friend Spain. And I'm going to tell the story not as good as he would, and I wasn't going to do this, but after meeting with Mom and my Aunt Sydney and my sister here the other day in the funeral home, I thought it was worth sharing. It was around the start of dove season. Grandpa was in high school with his friend Spain, and they decided to go hunting early in the morning before school started. Well, they showed up to school late. And knowing Grandpa, they were probably going down the hallway at the sound level of just below a herd of stampeding buffalo. They got snatched up, sent to the principal's office, and he's sitting there lecturing them. And he tells them, you know, what you've done, it's not so bad. It's just kind of the principle of the thing. And in what has to be one of the greatest comeback lines I think I've ever heard, without missing a beat, they said, you know, it's not the school that's so bad, it's the principle of the thing. That's Grandpa. He played basketball for the great Hank Iba at Oklahoma A&M, the one that the stadium there is named after. He had military service in World War II. And then he didn't know what he was going to do when he grew up, so as mentioned before, at the ripe young age of 62, he decided to go through cleat training and firearm instructor training. He was about 2 decades older than the next person to him in age. He's trained some of Oklahoma's finest on how to handle a firearm. And later in life, he would share stories of Patswold and Hawkins and how they would take him to the shooting range, and I'm sure they're out here somewhere, and I want to extend to you a thank you from our family. That meant a lot to us, and it meant a lot to him to get to go do that. His life reads something like you'd find in a book. I kind of wish he had written that book. Then on the other hand, kind of glad he didn't, because then he would have had to go on Oprah, and I'm not sure how that would have went. So I'm going to say I have a unique experience with him as a grandchild. Some of my earliest memories, now I wasn't good with distance when I was younger. I would stand next to a man, I think he's 8'4", give or take. Had hands the size of bear paws. I'd be standing there and we'd have a poor innocent glass bottle sitting right over there that's about to meet its maker. Be shaking that gun, those big old bear paw hands come up behind you, hold you on the shoulder, say it's all right, breathe deeply. You'd get real close, let it surprise you, nice and easy. That glass bottle didn't make it. I'm also fairly certain that he did not do that with the fine young members of the Highway Patrol that were standing here. Although, knowing Grandpa, he might have. I remember sitting around in the small room in Nana Grandpa's house, listening to stories. He would always have us wide-eyed at the way he could deliver them. I remember one time when Nana visiting us out at the house. And I was about 10 years old. Grandpa says, "Hey, boy, why don't you go in there and make us some coffee?" Every 10-year-old knows how to make coffee. This makes sense. I'll do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, well, if 3 scoops are good, 4 scoops is great, 10 scoops is awesome. Well, I brought that coffee out to them so proud. I think my dad took a sip of it and then glopped it out on the ground. Now, Grandpa, he muttered something under his breath about, "I'm going to put hair on your chest." And then he drank it. Now, he taught us all a love of firearms and shooting. He taught my brother, my cousin Tyler, and me in the Oklahoma Hunter Safety course. And a little older, when girls started coming around, one of his first questions to them always was, "You know how to shoot a gun? Are you comfortable with a gun?" I don't know if that was an indictment of us or if he was just curious. Now, if you're outside the family, that may sound a little odd to you, but it wasn't long before they sat there wide-eyed listening to those same stories that we had listened to. They all loved him. He loved them. I witnessed his uncanny ability to connect with people. We'd go to the cafe for a slice of pie and a cup of coffee. Some waitress we had never known. All of a sudden, she's spending all her time at our table, and all those poor tables that she should have been taking care of weren't, because she wanted to spend more time around him, talking with him. I remember later in life, I would sit in that same room, a small room in you guys' house, listening to those same stories, because you heard the same stories. But he would also discuss his trip to the hospital for his heart. He would sit there, he had a pedometer, and he would sit there and talk about the number of steps that he was taking, how he was wearing the road out between his house and the neighbors. And he's sitting there the whole time shaking this pedometer. We were proud of the steps you were taking, Grandpa. I'll give you one more short story and then I'm going to step off of here. When I turned 16, Grandpa gave me a single-shot .22 long rifle. Holds 1 bullet. He told me that he had the sister rifle to that gun at his house. And when I thought that I'd got good enough, that I should come up there and we should have a shooting competition. I never got the chance to have that competition with Grandpa. His eyesight faded too fast, faster than I could recognize the importance of having that competition. I purchased that same rifle for my oldest son, Brooks, when he turned 1 year old. The last visit that I had with Grandpa was in late November. And during that visit, he handed me that .22 long rifle that he was going to use. I think it was in recognition that that may have been our last time together. Now my boys have the same challenge to them that I have received from Grandpa. I hope someday they understand the importance of that. Grandpa, you are very much loved. You will be greatly missed. I know that you're in a better place, your vision and your health restored, and someday we'll sit around again and I'll hear stories of your exploits in heaven. I can't imagine that God would be able to put Grandpa in a no-hunting zone. So the amount of stories that he's going to have by the time I get up there, I'm excited to hear. America has named his generation the greatest generation for what they did for us in World War II. Last Sunday, heaven added a great member of that generation to her ranks. Thank you all. God bless.